All right, thank you so much for your presentation, Kun Pimwadi Aguila, for the trend shaping the future of functional food, drink, and supplements in Southeast Asia. Now, ladies and gentlemen, not only we eat food for their taste, but food also provides us some health benefits as well, and even prevent us from many illness. Each individual has specific dietary and nutrition requirements, and that is the reason why we must participate in our coming up panel discussion. We are so honored to have two panelists from Thailand, one panelist from Spain, thanks to CDTI, the Ministry of Science and Innovation of Spain, who helped us, inviting Spanish organization to join our two-day symposium, as well as the moderator from Canada, who is enthusiastic to join our discussion as well. This one is the next cure, the personalized food. Now, please welcome our panelists. Dr. Brian Kunakorn, Doctor of Naturopathic Medicine from Bumrungrad Hospital, Thailand. Associate Professor Dr. Kitti, Sranacharoenpong, Head of Community Nutrition Unit, Institute of Nutrition, Mahidol University. Mr. Jesús Jimenez Lopez, Scientific Manager from Laboratorios, ORDESA, Spain. And of course, please welcome our moderator, Dr. Christina Lengyel, Professor from Department of Food and Human Nutritional Sciences from University of Manitoba, Canada. Please welcome.
Thank you very much for that lovely introduction. Good morning, everyone. And hello from Canada. It's good evening here and good morning there. So we have both days. Today, I'm at November 9th and you're the day after, November 10th. So I'm very pleased to be here. I'm very excited that you're here listening to our session. We have three expert panelists here today that are very excited to introduce you to their information from their expertise and also personal experiences and their research. So we're going to begin today with Dr. Brian. And Dr. Brian is a doctor of naturopathic medicine at Esperance Integrative Oncology Clinic at Bumrungrad International Hospital in Bangkok, Thailand. And he did his undergraduate training at UC Santa Barbara and completed his Doctor of Naturopathic Medicine training at the Bastyr University in Seattle. He is a physician who focuses on mitochondrial health with advanced skills in natural, holistic, physical, and complementary alternative medical practice. So please help me welcome Dr. Brian.
Thank you so much, Dr. Christina. Again, my name is Dr. Brian Kunakorn, and I am delighted to be here today to be sharing my experience, as well as representing Bumrungrad Hospital, Vital Life, and Esperance at the same time. Today, we'll be talking about bridging the gap between medical practices and wellness as the next cure for personalized food. And usually this is in the context of chronic diseases, and chronic diseases are the #1 cause of death today that we see. And to take this to a next level of being relatable and extreme, I want to use an example that is quite within my daily practices, which is among cancer patients. So without any further ado, let's start with cancer statistics. Let's start with the statistics in 2019. It hasn't changed much. It has been increasing, but we know that the population of the world is around 7 billion, 7.6 billion specifically on this graph. 18 million people are diagnosed with cancer and 9.5 have died from cancer. This is a disease that has been growing and it's been harder to control because there's some limiting factors that we've seen. And as I've said that this is a chronic disease, we do see that cancer has not been treated as a chronic disease. I want everyone to ask yourself that right now. Are we really treating this disease as a chronic disease? To treat something as a chronic disease, let's take diabetes, for example. We look at the lifestyle, we change the modification, we can measure some kind of markers such as the blood glucose. But for cancer, we wait until the day of the scan and we figure out whether it's positive or negative. To me, this is not really a chronic disease approach. So why is it not a chronic disease approach? Because we wait for something to happen, then we do the treatments. These treatments include surgery, radiation, targeted therapy, chemotherapy, immunotherapy, hormonal therapy, which these are all treatments that we wait until a person has disease. Then the disease does not start within a day. It doesn't start within a week. It takes days after days, years after years to accumulate for that small cell to grow into something that's big and finally deadly. But at the same time, we tell our patients after they're done with treatment to go home and then just live their life. And if they couldn't eat during the time of chemotherapy, we just tell them just eat as much as possible. Anything is fine, just to make sure that they're happy. But this is what leads them into having cancer in the first place, is their lifestyle. And making them go back to what they're doing does not really solve the problem. So today I want to change the concept a little bit through my experiences and my team. And what we've seen is that to make this a chronic care model, we need to come from an approach that is a chronic care model for cancer. So let's start off with prevention at the bottom of the pyramid, which means that whatever we do, disease or not disease, this should be there at all times. This is your lifestyle factors. This is the clean air. This is the clean water. This is a diet. This is exercise. This is what we're talking about today. Then once we have the disease, we still have to look into prevention methods, because these are the types of diet and exercise that we should still continue. I'm not talking about extreme events where you're bed-bounded and you can't eat. That's different. But I'm still saying that once you're done with treatment, such as surgery, chemotherapy, radiotherapy, targeted therapy, and immunotherapy, we still have to look at these lifestyle factors. Then we have research that came along and say that, hey, we have the immune system that's important. We have these extreme diets such as IF, keto, all these kind of diets. And we have supplements and herbs, but they don't fall within the standard of care. But we have a lot of data on this. How do we integrate into a model? First of all, we need to have this foundation of health, which is prevention. And if the disease has already occurred, then we have these active cancer treatments. Once these are completed, then we can look into adjunctive treatments, which is on the top of the pyramid, which is of least priority. To make this more relatable, I've chosen a case of my patient, and this is a 67-year-old female who had thyroid cancer 30 years ago and received thyroidectomy and radioactive iodine. And guess what? She's been sent home and said, just live your life. Nothing has changed much. So fast forward 30 years, just 2 or 3 years ago, it turns out that she has nodules in her breast, her colon, and her lung. Usually when you have cancer, it can spread to different parts of the body, and this is called metastasis. In this case, it's not a metastatic cancer, it's its own type of cancer. We call it 3 primary cancers, which is a rare case to have a person to have 3 types of cancer at the same time, including thyroid, there'll be 4 cancers at the same time. So luckily, because of standard of care saying that early detection leads to early treatment. So the treatment, again, is surgery and everything is in the clear because it's all stage 1. Then a year later, it turns out that the tumor has gone to her brain. It has metastasized from one of those type of cancer to the brain. It turns out to be the colon or the lung. We couldn't decide. So we have to look at genetics. Turns out it's from the colon. Genetics meaning a somatic mutation, not the one that we receive from our family. So based on this, everyone would be thinking, what's the cause of this cancer? The first thing that a patient think of is who in my family, and they'll try to look into the family tree. Turns out that there's no family history of cancer in this family. So it turns out she's the first one in her family to get all these type of cancer. So what is the cause of cancer? It turns out that if your immune system is low, then your cancer will grow because your body produces cancer cells all the time. But then if your immune system is strong enough, it'll kill the cancer. If your immune system is weak, then it can't kill the cancer. You have a bad lifestyle, good immune system, no cancer. Bad lifestyle long enough will create a weakened immune system, then cancer will occur. But for cancer to occur, it has to happen in 7 steps. The immune system works in 7 steps. At any point in time, if one of these steps is missing or goes defected, then the patient will have cancer. The immune cells will fail to kill the cancer. It turns out that our research has directed our attention to step 7, which is PD-L1, which helps a lot of metastatic lung cancer live longer. But it turns out that we're looking at only 1 step. What happens to the 6th? Nobody knows. Nobody cares. Nobody really does anything about it. But in theory and in practice, there's a huge gap between this. This brings up what causes the immune system to be weakened. It turns out that lifestyle factors, because immune system actually, a weakened immune system that is hereditary by our genes turns out to account for only 5 to 10% of the cases of cancer in the world. The rest, where does that go? 90% came from lifestyle, and that's smoking, excess weight, food that we eat, physical exercise, infections, alcohol. Do I need to mention more? Probably not, because there's a long list. So coming back to this patient, it turns out, let's look at her lifestyle. It turns out that she's a registered dietitian for 30 years. And from my information, people who are in this field know about food. They know about food more than anyone else in this world. But it turns out a standard of care did not really help what's going on, because standard of care only account for people who are sick, not people who are trying to prevent the disease. And we do see that she's never been overweight. She sleeps at 2 a.m. every day. She's a single mom, lives in a polluted area, does not really have organic food because Thailand doesn't have organic food 30 years ago. We don't even know the concept of it, but fortunately that has changed. So that brings me to this. There's a huge gap between research and a huge gap between applications. Whatever we see on research, the news that shows, everything that shows, patients walking through my door, it turns out that it takes almost 12 years for that research to appear in the medicine cabinet if there's enough studies. So does this patient have 12 years to wait? Obviously not. So this brings me to the point of the health spectrum. We can see that there's a difference between wellness practices and medical practices. Medical practices, this is where Bumrungrad shine. As a hospital, we're a top-notch facility that have gold standards in treating all kinds of diseases, and this is where Bumrungrad Hospital falls. But we also have another group where they're healthy, they don't have a disease, but they want optimal health. So they fall within wellness, and this is where Vital Life Scientific Center falls. Then there's also the gray zone where we see that they're not really diseased, but they don't fall within wellness at the same time. The wellness can't really help them because we're scared that we're going to cause more problems and they have symptoms, but at the same time, the hospital couldn't figure out what's going on with their health. So this is what we call the gray zone, and this is where the integrative approach might help, and this is where Esperance, which is the place where I work at the moment, actually helps link the gap between the two. In combination, because we're in the same campus, it turns out that we complete the continuum of care and complete the spectrum. With this continuity of care, it turns out that people who are not sick, they don't want you to come to the hospital all the time. So what we created is another facility that's more of a wellness resort called RAKSA. And RAKSA has just started not long ago, but has gained a lot of attention through Bloomberg, and we've seen that it's been one of the most well-known facilities for a wellness resorts that helps combine all these continuity of care, including wellness, integrative approach, and disease. So going back to this patient, what should she eat? What's the best diet for her? Well, let me tell you one answer if you're looking for it. There is no best anti-cancer diet. There is a best diet that will account for her goals, her timing, and what kind of disease that have. And no, I'm not talking about taste. We, for a long time, for decades, we care about taste more than quality. And for a long time, because of war times, we think about quantity more than quality. Well, guess what? Now we're in 2021. Quality means nutrition. It doesn't mean taste. It doesn't mean quantity. So how do we approach this from a health aspect? It turns out that we go by the functional medicine tree. And this is a model of it. Think about the root as the genes, and the food that we eat, the environment we live, as the soil and the water we get. As the tree grows, we see that it grows into branches and stem. Whatever that determines the leaf, whether it will be a disease or it will be healthy, that depends on the environmental factors and your genes. So this is what the functional medicine tree is showing us. So today we'll be talking about food more than anything. And it turns out that having too much information is not always great. It can lead us astray. For example, nutrigenomics has great applications, but at the same time, people focus on the wrong thing at the wrong time. It turns out that we're doing these genetics to determine what we should eat. It's actually not that order. It turns out that it's what we eat that affects our genetics that's going to be expressed. So let me give you an example of this patient. She has an FTO gene, which has been known to increase fat. Anyone who has a variant of this, if the FTO gene is a variant, then having too much proteins can lead into fat. So she tried to reduce her protein amount. But by reducing her protein amount, it doesn't create enough building blocks, such as creating immune system that's strong enough or muscle mass that's strong enough. So this is one example taken at the wrong place at the wrong time. What nutrigenomics is good at is that if you're already starting a diet, if you're already exercising, but you're plateauing and you couldn't figure out a reason for that, this might be the answer. If you're having too much protein when you shouldn't have, this might be the answer. But it's definitely not used for someone who's already diseased, and they try to figure out how to get out of that based on their genetics. So to tell you a little bit more about genetics versus lifestyle, it turns out that this experiment shows that if you have a normal cell, the circle is the nucleus, which is the genetics. The squiggly stuff around it, that's the lifestyle. If you have good genes, good environment, then you create good cells. At the same time, on the other hand, if you have bad genes, bad environment, you create bad cells. But if you have bad genes, good environment, you create good cells. And the last but not least, you see that if you have good genes, bad environment, then you create bad cells with bad genes. From this experiment, it shows that the environment controls more of your factors more than anything else. And we can see that in our experiment, we see that there is a gap between environment and genetics, and that is microbiome. By tweaking the microbiome, we complete the 7 steps of the immune system. It affects the immune system at every single step. So microbiome that's good is accounted by the diet that we eat. Good diet creates good microbiome creates good immune system. On the other hand, too much sugar, too much fat, tobacco, alcohol creates bad diet and eventually leads to bad immune system. How do I know? Because I've seen a lot of cases. I've used technology before, and we'll see that this is what we see with the type of test. We see the different bacteria, and I want to point to the two types of bacteria, Faecalibacterium and Akkermansia. When these are too low, our immune system can't fight cancer, and it doesn't allow our immune system to fight when we use medications at the same time. But when we tweak this through diets, such as short-chain fatty acid, such as not creating a lot of chemicals, we do see that treatment goes better and we can prevent cancer at the same time for people who do not have cancer. So wellness facilities like us use a lot of technologies like this, and RUCSA still need help from the food industry. It turns out that food industry first have to distinguish between functional food, which is food as medicine, and from pleasurable food. Second, they have to balance between nutrition and taste. Third, educate the public about food products that will help teach consumers how to choose real food. And fourth, make sure that it's not a long shelf life, because long shelf life means that we add preservatives. And last but not least, chemicals and toxic substances impede the microbiome and also affect the immune system. In conclusion, I want to say that prevention is the foundation of health, and we can use this dietary factor as one of our factors that help with prevention. Cancer is one good example of chronic disease. And we can see that through lifestyle modification, we can modify the microbiome that can help the immune system. Bumrungrad, Vital Life, Esperance, and Raksa close the gap between wellness and medical practice every day, but we can't do it alone. And I'm sure that other facilities have this problem too. And we need the help of the food industry to make sure we create food products that's good enough for our patients and customers. So this is, for a lot of you who have been wondering how's this patient doing, it turns out that she had brain cancer and it had metastasized to her brain. She received whole brain surgery and brain surgery and whole brain radiation, which usually her balance would be off, but you can see from this video she's walking fine. This patient happens to be my mother, and she's doing fine at the moment. There's no active nodules. So in conclusion, I want to say that we strive to make people live to live, not live to exist. With this, I hope that everyone learned a lesson from all of this. And at the same time, we strive to do better every single day. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Brian, for a very informative and inspiring presentation. We're going to move on to our next panelist. And again, we will have a question and answer period at the end of after all the panelists have presented. So I'd like to introduce our next speaker, and it's Dr. Kitti. So Dr. Kitti is the head of Community Nutrition Unit, Institute of Nutrition at Mahidol University in Thailand. And he is also the key person who developed the Thai food-based dietary guidelines. And so this is included in how to best meet dietary nutritional needs from available sources, to include a sufficient intake of good quality, safe, and affordable foods for the Thai population. So I'd like you to help me welcome Dr. Kitti.
Good morning, and thank you very much, Dr. Christine, to introduce me. And I would like to thank Food in the Police organizer to invite me to share the experience about the topic, this topic. And I would also to share my perspective as a public health nutritionist. And the outline of today that I would like to talk about the food is medicine interventions, benefit of food is medicines, and also the Thailand experience to integrate the food as medicine in the healthcare and future directions. What does it mean for the food is medicines? It means to integrate the nutrition knowledge for treatment and manage disease for people. It includes to concern about the food security for hungers, especially for vulnerable groups. Food as medicine should incorporate strategy improving health in structure and funding for healthcare system, focus on food-based, not nutrients, supplement, or medical food. The article from Sarah Downer and colleagues published in BMJ in 2020 mentioned about the food is medicine intervention include, for example, medical tailor meal, or therapeutic meal that fully prepared meal designed by clinical dietitians and include nutrition counseling. The intervention focus on the patients with complex medical conditions, for example, cancer, HIV, or chronic heart failure. Sorry. And who are unable to shop and prepare their meal. The outcome is show that the patient can decrease to admit to the hospital, and the admission to skilled nursing facility is improved, and overall healthcare costs can reduce. In addition, the increase the quality of the diet. The second intervention, medically tailored grocery, sometimes we know as food pharmacy or healthy food prescriptions. This intervention, the nutritionist select the healthy food for the target group as a part of the treatments. The patient pick up the food at the community or clinics and prepare food themselves at home. The outcome show that, for example, can decrease hemoglobin A1C, and the cost of the care can reduce. Also increasing consumption of food and vegetable. And another one, the produce prescriptions is meant to produce the voucher or the debit card for free or discount to buy healthy food. The target group of this intervention is patient or at-risk people for the non-communicable diseases and who are food insecure. The outcome show that, for example, hemoglobin A1C can decrease because the food, the patient or the target group can access to the healthy food, and the fast food consumption decreasing, also BMI decreasing too, and it's increasing our food and vegetable consumptions from these interventions. And the last one, to integrate the healthy food environment for self-efficiency for healthy people and at-risk people. This is the intervention from my experience that might be appropriate to adapt using in Thailand or the other developing country. I mean to provide healthy food to people that they can access healthy food with low price. In addition, increasing price or food tax for unhealthy food should be concerned by the policy maker, such as sugar and salt. I would like to suggest that intervention need to put a lot of effort into the several stakeholders, such as farmer, producer, policy maker, nutritionists, and community dietitians. Even though this intervention is complex, I believe that it will be sustained and could prevent non-communicable diseases and reduce cost of medicine. This is the photo from the of the food-based dietary guideline from around the world that I pick up some of them. It is one of the strategies to educate the people for the healthy consumption with the healthy food based on their diet and cultures. And that is the Thai food-based dietary guidelines we call the Nutritional Flag. And I developed this model in 1999 and have been using across the country as a nutritional tools to convey the key messages and appropriate food portion size for the Thai people from 6-year-olds to older. The benefit of the food is medicine. As we know, the benefit of the food is medicine from the previous slides. In addition, food is medicine can promote good practice in agriculture, food supply, nutrition, and health outcome by demand from the consumer. In addition, it also can translate the nutrients base to the food base to general people to meet the recommendation. For example, we suggest the people to consume 25 grams per day of dietary fiber. It might confusing for them, but we can translate to to suggest the people to consume 400 grams per day of fruit and vegetable. And also, I mentioned about the food-based dieting guideline linked to the food is medicines. It could ensure food security, safe and nutritious food supply from the people demanding. The benefit also focus on the food supplement feeding program and food fortification with some essential nutrients if needed for the at-risk people. How to integrate the food as medicine in the healthcare system. We have to change a bit of people mindset that healthcare center is not just the place for the treatment or provide medicine only. Food can integrate in the current health promotion program in the public health system at all levels and set the method for the evaluations. The policymakers should pay the attention and commit of the nutrition as a part of the intervention for the preventions. We need to work with many stakeholders in the community level to prevent under and overnutrition, including non-communicable diseases. This figure shows the component of the successful integration community-based program in healthcare from Thailand experiences. The system and related of the minimum basic service we have such as health, education, agriculture. So we have to set the activity based on life cycle approaches and focus on public health problems, such as school lunch program and meal program, serving Thai children hunger in 1992 by Ministry of Education and Ministry of Public Health. The program should run continuously and support budget from the government. The staff need to be trained and supervised by professor or expert. The program should run smoothly, supported by community leaders. One of the components that is important is health volunteer. It's quite unique and it is the mechanism of the public health system in Thailand. They take care of 10 households per one volunteer in their communities. And the example during the COVID-19, they also the important people to screen and to screening and prevent the COVID-19 that in these situations. This is the future direction. Not only the food is important for the health, each process to getting food is also considered carefully. The safe and nutritious food and surveillance systems should set the standard and knowledge based on empirical research evidence. Currently, we know the impact of the climate change and agriculture produce commodity. So the study of the climate change linked to the agriculture to food, nutrition and health should focus in developing country. It means we need to make sure that healthy food could be sustained from the farm to consumer and friendly for environment. This is the figure that I show the process of food from farm to food system and go to the consumer demand. When we produce a lot of food by demanding, we also produce waste that affect to global warming. The unexpected outcome is low food yield linked to food insecurity situation in some countries. To sum up, I would like you to take take home some key messages. Just apply participatory approaches used for food is medicine intervention for long-term sustainability in healthcare system might be priorities. Not only for healthy food for healthy people, we need a healthy environment for our young generations. Global warming in food, nutrition, and agriculture should have more empirical research evidence, especially in the new normal era. Big data is needed for planning and using limited resources for most effective outcome. And the last, solving public health problem should be willing to encompass the social, economics, politics, and human rights dimension of nutrition. Thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Kitti, for a really nice presentation, very inspiring presentation as well. So with our final speaker of the evening, or for our session, not of the evening, but for our session, Dr. Jimenez Lopez. He is a scientific manager for the Laboratorios ORDESA in Barcelona, Spain. He comes to us with lots of industry experience and lots of expertise, and he has numerous publications and patents. So I'd like you to help me welcome our next speaker.
Okay, thank you so much, Christina. And I would like to start first with my thanks to the organizers for inviting myself and my company to this important meeting, and also to the Spanish organization CEDETI that also invite me to this nice presentation. Let me start with a bit introduction about my company. Laboratorios ORDESA is oh, let me see if I can. I have some problem to, let me see. Oh, no. See. Okay. I have some problem to pass my slide. Sorry. Can you help me? Okay. Laboratorios ORDESA is a company based in Spain. Our main business is infant nutrition. We are based in Spain. Our headquarters is in Spain. I don't know if you can see my presentation, but also we have business in many countries along the world, in America, in Peru, Colombia, Ecuador. Our main business market is in Spain, but our second market is Middle East. We have a strong position in Saudi Arabia, but also we are present in Asia, in China, and in Indonesia, in Philippines, and Vietnam. We are not present yet in Thailand, but we hope to be here in the future. Okay. Let's move on now to the next presentation. We are I would say that we put a lot of effort in research, development, and innovation. This is one of the key elements of our strategies to use science as a base for our development of product. Is critical for us to have a strong research and development in order to develop the best possible product for our consumer. No, we have an area of discovery, we have an area of preclinical, and also we run clinical trial in order to show the effect of our product in human. In this case, although we have infant nutrition product and adult product, our main business is infant nutrition. We have a strong tradition of innovation in infant nutrition product in Spain and also in many countries in the world. But one of the most important issue now or topic in infant nutrition is what we call the 1,000 days. What is the 1,000 days? This is a concept, a very important concept that say that what happened during gestation and during the 2 first years after birth may have a big impact in the health of these children when they are adult. So there is a critical window in this first 1,000 days of life that may have a big impact in health, not only for this child, but also maybe for the next generation. So this is not based on genetic background. This is what we call epigenetic. So epigenetic is a big topic now, and infant nutrition, I would say, is the most important issue now in infant nutrition. So this means that what happened during this critical window is really important. So it's important nutrition, it's important environmental factor, toxicology is also important. So if we are going to talk about personalized nutrition. So it's important what kind of nutrition we are going to give to our children in this critical window, because they may have an impact in the future health of this baby. So this is the same because we know the early nutrition has an impact on future diseases such as mainly obesity. There are several studies that have been able to show that a high level of protein during the first year of life may increase the risk of suffering from diabetes, obesity, and metabolic syndrome. So now most of the guidelines about infant nutrition are reducing the level of protein in infant formula. So this is based not on genetic background, this is a epigenetic background. So I'm going to skip this, but this is the same. So in the past, we were talking about the general diet, general recommendation for all the population. Now we are talking about functional food, more specific food for to prevent a specific disease. We were talking in the panel discussion because I think it's very important the composition of the food, but it's also the taste and the organoleptic property is also extremely important. This is one of the key elements because this is something we take into account when we develop our product. To develop the most nutritional product, but also the taste is extremely important for the acceptance of the product. But in the future, we are going to talk more about personal nutrition. We are running several projects right now. Today, I have a session for personalized nutrition for infant nutritional product. So, but why? Because right now, in general, we have the same infant formula, talking about healthy children, we have the same infant formula for all the children, regardless of the way they have when they are born, regardless of what happened during pregnancy, regardless of if they have a high growth rate or a low growth rate. So we have the same infant formula. Why is that? So in the future, we think we are going to have different infant formulas depending on the personalized characteristic of the baby. Now, this is the future. This is what we call personal nutrition. And so we have now an spectacular development of genomic, epigenomic, proteomic, metabolomic. So we had to use all this tool for the future to define what are the specific formula, specific food in general that we are using for every person. Now it's really difficult to use that, but we had to make different steps. We think that maybe at the beginning, for instance, in the case of the infant formula, we can develop infant formula for a specific group of children. It's difficult. It's very, now technologically, it's now, even talking about science, it's difficult to have now infant formula specific for one treatment. But we can, our approach is to have a specific infant formula for group of population. We have that for children suffering from different diseases like cow's milk allergy, lactose intolerance. We have a specific product, but when we talk about healthy children, we have the same product for all of them, regardless of their condition or regardless of their characteristic. So when we talk about personal nutrition, at the end we go to what we call precision nutrition. What is precision nutrition? Precision nutrition is to use or to develop a product taking into account not only the genetic background, but also the epigenetic, but also the microbiome. This is a truly important one, also one of the hot topic in infant nutrition. So children which are feed with maternal milk has a different microbiota that children intaking infant formula, and that is going to be very important later on life. So we have to take into account nutrigenomic, the microbiota, metabolomics, physical activity, dietary habit. So this is what we call precision nutrition, and this is the future. So taking into account all these factors: genetic, epigenetic, metabolic profile, eating habits, microbiota, physical activity, environment, lifestyle. So this is the future. The future is not to have the same recommendation for everybody, because we have different conditions. We have different genetic background. We have different epigenetic. So I'm going to skip to have. And this is what we are now, this is our research line to have, you know that in infant nutrition, we have human milk as a gold standard for infant nutrition. But we know that if human milk, for instance, is different depending on the characteristics of the baby. Just to mention that human milk from, there is I don't recall the name, that is a good research from Harvard, that say that human milk from a mother feeding in girls is different from the human milk of mother feeding boys, for instance. So we have to study carefully human milk and develop ingredients and for cognitive development, for the immune system, and this is the future in infant nutrition. So as I said before, we have a specific product for children suffering different disease, like we have for cow's milk allergy. But even in this case, there are different kind of cow's milk allergy, and we have the same product for every type of cow's milk protein allergy. So we have to personalize, even for this case, still our product. But I think the main issue here for the future is to have specific infant formulas for every child. And since this is a big issue right now, I think our first step is to develop infant formula for a specific group of population. And this is one of the main projects that we have in our company. We hope that in the near future, we will have a product in the market, a specific group of population. Thank you so much. And it will be a pleasure for me to answer any question. This is my email in case that you have any question. And I'm ready for the panel discussion. Thank you so much to the organizers and Christina.
Thank you very much for a very informative presentation. What a great presentation. We have 3 experts that talked about really different things, but all under the umbrella of personalized nutrition. And when we're talking about food as medicine, looking at prevention and also treatment of disease using food, I wanted to ask you all a question. You can all take turns answering, but when we look at the potential in personalized food, looking at level of chronic disease, different individuals and groups, and also communities, I wanted to ask, what are some opportunities that you've seen and barriers to personalized nutrition in different groups? And because I think that there are issues, but how do we move forward? So what are the opportunities first? And what are some barriers that you've noticed in your practices, in your research, and in the academia side? So we have expertise from all of these areas representing today.
Let me start from a technological point of view. There are some barriers. For instance, in infant nutrition, that obviously it's not easy to make a short production, or infant formula for. So there is a technological challenge also for this, because we have also a product for enteral nutrition, no? And this is important for the future. But there is a technological challenge for that. But I think there way innovation is for that, to look for new solution in order to be able to develop technology and science in order to develop a specific product for specific people. And also it's important to know that it's true that we say in Spain that Cervantes, which we saw, we was one of the most important writers in the world, say in the century 15 that nutrition is medicine, is a medicine. And so the technological challenge is one of the main challenges for the industry. How are we going to personalize? How are we going to produce a specific product, which are going to be a small production for group of population? In this case, for instance, we have a product that is it's a very small production for, I think, from children suffering from some kidney disease, and our production is so low that we had to throw away most of the production because we use this product only for maybe 200 or 300 children in Spain. So, and the production is maybe for 5,000 people. No? Okay.
Thank you very much. Any other panelists?
I can chime in on this as well. So the beauty of having all three of us today is actually we complete the loop, actually. I see barriers from all three sectors, which the first sector at a community level, the knowledge, we have so much knowledge that's being produced at the same time, but this knowledge being conveyed to our people seems to be limited or sometimes slower than what we needed. So when the knowledge doesn't catch up to the amount of research that's out there, the problem is we couldn't really change a habit. Now we can only go to only a certain amount of people, which these group of people, thanks to social media, thanks to technology, we're well connected now. So we have a small niche group of people that are knowledgeable, which do not fit in the average anymore. So they now understand what the ideas about health is and what kind of food and steps that are needed to take action, but they couldn't find the link between taking action in a safe method or taking action that is risky. So this is where I find that the medical sector kind of have to distinguish between disease and prevention at this point. We focus way too much on disease to a certain extent, but yet we tell people to come in for checkups. We tell people to come in to make sure that their health is in check, but we have to say at a community level, we're overworked. So we kind of push them away when they're not having a disease. So there's like a balance we have to see at this point. And I think that if we start looking into prevention more, practice makes persistence. Sometimes we try to reach perfection. So at some point in time, we collect enough data, we'll be able to say, hey, look, like diabetes, we can actually look back and say, hey, these are the steps that we can take before a certain person might have diabetes, and they don't have to wait until diabetes and to start having medications. We can do it for other chronic diseases. So that's where the medical community falls in. Then after the medical community falls in, the problem is once we tell patients something, they don't really create a habit. They expect us to give them everything. They want meal plans. They want things and all of these things, which that doesn't give them the skill. So this is where the food product sector helps complete the loop and say, hey, these are the options and these are the knowledge that's out there. Not only, you don't have to go to the hospital every single day to get these knowledge, you can actually get it from food products as well. And this is where we, all of us can actually move forward as a community together to actually combat these barriers that we're facing today.
Thank you very much. Dr. Kitti, did you want to say anything?
No.
Oh, you're on mute.
Microphone.
Okay, sorry. I agree with Dr. Brian because when we focus on the food, in my opinion, I think for the healthy food, it might be too expensive for the people to access. And I think for this point, the communication, the knowledge to the people is quite important. But when we have the knowledge, sometimes we can change their behaviors because they cannot access to the healthy food. And I think the policymaker should consider for this strategy, for example, to reduce the healthy food, and maybe they might want to, they might have to increase the price for the unhealthy. The example right now in Thailand, we increase the sugar tax. And it means we might have the gaps. For example, when we use for example, something in request for the sugar, and they can claim the no sugar or sugar-free the beverage, and this is it might be need to convey the knowledge to the people. And I think for the food industry, it might be need to collaborate with us. In my perspective of the nutritionist, and sometimes they might be tricky when we launch the logos or something like this. And sometimes we need to talk and discuss and make the same goal if we want our people to be healthy. This is my opinion.
Thank you very much. It's wonderful. We have a question from the audience. So I know we have 5 minutes left. How can we combine food good for people with food good for the planet?
Mm-hmm. I can start answering, because there is no any other way. We had to develop products that are good for the planet without any doubt. I think this is possible to use that. We have a big project here also in our company, because it's important to sustainability is one of the key elements also of our strategy. We had to use that in the development of our product, and to reuse some of the products that we are not using. So I think we had to put that element as a key element of our strategy. How are we going to do that? But we had to talk to the supplier. We had to talk in our production level. We had to talk also in the ingredient, in the formulation. We had to take into account all these natural factor. We had to use natural ingredient, but also we had to communicate that the advantages that to have natural product without, if possible, preservative and stabilizers. So I think that the only way for the future is to develop nutritional and personalized food, but also food that are sustainable, good for the planet.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I think from my opinion, if we want to concern about the globals, maybe we have to concern about the agriculture activity. Sometimes we have to let the farmer or some stakeholder to understand how to understand about the global warmings, and then let them use for example, when they use the pesticide or chemical to apply at the farm, maybe we have to educate them. And right now, I think we see some study that concern about the climate change and carbon footprints. And I think another side, maybe we have to educate the consumer demand. And sometimes I think it might be hard to change their behaviors. For example, right now, we discussed a lot about the vegetarian or meat eater who can contribute more carbon dioxide. And I think we need some evidence. When I did my postdoc in US, we try to promote vegetarian diet. And sometimes we feel some product from the vegetarian diet might produce more than carbon dioxide from the normal products. It means we try to promote the people to eat the local product and let the farmer to produce their commodity by using low or natural way. Maybe organic is might be optional, but the food technology or the agriculture technology have to be used in this way.
Thank you.
I feel like this is one of the hardest questions to answer in general, but I kind of have a view on this, and it might create a chain a little bit. But it turns out that I noticed that in terms of as a community level, we always look up to the government. We always look up to organizations to help us do something. But at the same time, it requires every individual to have the knowledge and to make their own judgment at the same time. And one good example would be being vegan or vegetarian. People tend to think that they have to be vegan because it's good for them, because it's sustainable, it's the way to go. But it's a choice, I would say. It's not that if you're not a vegan doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It just means that you enjoy meat, but at the same time, selecting the type of meat requires you to understand that there is a food production process involved there, which means that if you want to have the least, evidence is pretty much, the evidence out there talking about what harms our health the most seems to be pointing towards processed food. But if we can make things as whole as possible, or not raw, but whole food, and not really changing the process in where it came from, it actually would help impact health the most, I would say. But at the same time, as human beings, we like to take things on both extreme. Either it works or it doesn't, or this is good, this is bad. And as a community level, we kind of have to step away from this and say everything is a spectrum. It doesn't mean that you're all bad for doing this or you're all good for doing this. And the example that I like to use is meat eaters and vegetarians, and we have the omnivores in between. We have the carnivore diet, we have the vegans, and we have the omnivore here. So it turns out that we call this omnivore flexitarian to make it sound a little bit better. That is a choice. And I would say data also points that the data leads us to saying that carnivores tend to end up getting cancer faster, but we don't have enough data involving animals that are not going through factory farming, animals that are not going through hormonal processes, because it's just too much funding needed to create these kind of experiments. But at the same time, we use these data to make us decide and then take a standpoint on what to do. So I feel like we need to look at things as a spectrum and move at the point to say that, okay, maybe non-processed food is the way to go. We don't know which way is the right direction, but we know for sure that if we don't add chemicals to it, we make sure that we're not harming we're not trying to overproduce things. Mass production is one of the biggest problems, even with plants. GMO, I'm not saying GMO is bad, but I'm saying that when we overproduce something, that's when things might turn into the other extreme. So I would say try to go as simple as possible. And at the same time, the key is to educate the public, and the public to stand away and say, look, this is my choice. I got to do something, and I got to stop listening to data, because data is always changing, I would say. And at that point, by using our own judgment, and also at a community level, forming a community, this might help a little bit better. Don't take action alone, I would say. I'm coming too much from a practical perspective, but I guess that's where clinical decisions are being made for patients, because evidence-based does not only mean research, it also means expertise of the practitioner, at the same time, patient's choice. So these three things must fall into play for evidence-based practice. We always think about evidence-based as just research, but that's not true. We need all three. So I would say the third one still lacks at a community level, which is education for people to make their own decisions. So I would try to strengthen the third one more.
Thank you very much. I want to thank the panelists for this wonderful, engaging discussion. And if we had more time, you could tell it's a very complex issue when you're looking at personalized nutrition. And it requires a lot of information, understanding about our clients and our patients and what they need. And this is what kind of came out of this presentation. So thank you very much. We want to support healthy eating. We want to engage in disease prevention and treatment and understanding our clients' needs. So thank you very much for all this wonderful information that you've shared. I also want to thank Foodinopolis 2021 and all of the organizers for bringing us all together, because it's really important to be able to share and learn and be inspired of what's going to be next when we think about the future of personalized food. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much to organizers and to you, Christina, and all my colleagues.
Thank you so much. And it's been a pleasure talking to all of you today, and it's been an honor to meeting all of you through virtually. Hopefully one day we'll meet in person.
We'll be in touch.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And thank you to the audience. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful, wonderful afternoon, morning.
And evening there.
Well, thank you, you four. You are amazing, and this is such an insightful and amazing session. Well, that's a wrap for our morning session, guys. We are going to take 1 hour break, the lunch break, and we will be right back at 1:10 p.m. 1:10 p.m. Bangkok time for the great sessions to come in the afternoon, especially the sessions for us consumers. So I'll see you back right here in about 1 hour. Thank you.